Welcome back to another episode of Rabbi in the Hot Seat, but not any rabbi, your favorite Rabbi Dov Ber Cohen from Jerusalem, grew up in London, not religious, strong Jewish identity, philosophy at Manchester University, does the drugs, partying, clubbing, went to Asia for 6 years, Buddhist monk, martial arts, fasting, came to Israel, became a rabbi. Let's go.
You were a monk, you lived in the East, you lived in London, you went clubbing, you were a dance music DJ, now you're a rabbi. How do we know it's not just another phase?
That's a great question. I'll tell you two answers. Number one answer is I have evidence this time. The other paths were very exciting and they were great experiences. And I was trying many different things and learning with different things, but I didn't have evidence that it was true. When I came to Judaism, I saw evidence that there's no way a human being wrote the Torah. So I have a structure, I have a foundation. I know for a fact that it's true. And until someone proves to me that it's not true, I'm going to stick with this one because that's what an intelligent, honest human being does. The other answer is everything I found in all of those paths, I find in Judaism. I have amazing high experiences through meditation and prayer, and I still get to go bungee jumping and traveling and do art and music and martial arts. So I'm actually not missing out on anything by being a religious Jew.
Why is it okay to eat meat? When you were a Buddhist monk, did you eat meat? What was trying to eat meat like?
Great. So I actually was vegetarian for a year in India, and then I had a Burger King Whopper. It was amazing. It was the best thing I ever eaten. So the Jewish Kabbalistic answer to why it's okay to eat meat is, it depends. Is it okay to eat meat? The Gemara, the Talmud actually says that an Amma Aretz, a simple person, is not allowed to eat meat. Why is that? Because our whole general attitude towards animal in Judaism is you have to look after them, take care of them. There's something called Tsar Balei Chayim. You're not allowed to cause distress to a living animal. You have to feed your animal before you're allowed to eat. So we actually care very much about animal and plant life. In fact, the first thing they said in the garden, Hashem said to Adam and Eve, you're here to take care of the world. So when and why and how can we eat meat? The answer is that if you're doing it consciously, in order to give yourself energy to serve Hashem, to do mitzvahs, to help other people, as long as it is killed in the right way by a God-conscious person, as long as a blessing is said on the meat, then not only does the meat itself raise its level of consciousness, it's good for the animal because there are 4 levels of being. There's mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. And the purpose of life is God consciousness. So if you have a cow walking around all day, just eating grass and kind of farting and sleeping, that's okay, but it didn't achieve anything. But once it's used to make tefillin or to make a Torah scroll or to feed a Jew who is doing it in a conscious way, to have more energy to bring godliness into the world, that cow itself has a bit of a spiritual elevation because it was used to serve a part in God-conscious world. So it's much better. If I was a cow, I'd really rather be eaten by a Jew on Shabbat than just walk around eating grass for the whole of my life. Many holy rabbis only ate meat on Shabbat, for example. In fact, myself, I only eat meat on Shabbat because I feel that during the week, maybe I'm not as conscious to be able to do this kind of spiritual alchemy of uplifting the meat and using it for the right reasons. So on Shabbat, when I have more space and more spiritual connection, then I have a little bit of meat in order to connect myself to these higher levels.
What about sacrifices? Does God need us to kill animals?
Well, in general, we don't believe that God needs us to do anything, really. Whenever he tells us to do something, it's for our own good. So we see in the Navi, the prophet, Hashem, God says, actually, I don't want your sacrifices because you're not doing it with the right consciousness, the right intention. So the purpose of the sacrifices is because whenever we do something wrong, it's because we listen to our animalistic side. We became animalistic and we followed our animalistic nature. So really, we should be bringing ourselves up as a sacrifice. The word for sacrifice in Hebrew, by the way, is korban, which means karov, which means it brings a certain closeness. Because whenever we feel disconnected, detached from Hashem, is because we fed our animal side, we created distance. So the animal represents my animalistic nature that now I'm bringing up to sacrifice it, to say I want to connect to Hashem. And once again, it helps the animal. The animal is now used for a holy Jewish ritual. So anything that we use for a holy Jewish ritual gains some holiness. So for example, an etrog, during Sukkot, it becomes holy itself because it's being used for a mitzvah. So an animal that is being used for this mitzvah, this connection, it actually benefits the animal as well.
Why is Judaism obsessed with how girls dress?
The truth is, Judaism is not only obsessed with how girls dress. I don't walk around with my top off either. There's this idea called sniut, modesty, and yes, it's spoken more about girls just because in general, girls who aren't spiritually or religiously connected do walk around a little bit more exposed. But Judaism is not only about girls, it's about men. I don't walk around half naked either. And the reason is really because Judaism says you're a soul, not a body. So the more you show of your body and present yourself as body and get recognition as body and feel good about yourself for body, the more you connect to body and the less you're actually manifesting your spirituality into the world. So Judaism doesn't say that you're not allowed to look good. You can be dressed very modestly and still very self-expressed. My daughter actually once said to me, maybe it gets very hot in the summer. So I understand why people want to wear fewer clothes, but the truth is wearing a bikini doesn't help when you're very hot. The sun's now directly on your skin. In fact, I lived in India for a very long time, the hottest place on the face of the planet, and the women wear long, thin cotton sleeve, very tanua, they're very modest. So it's not a heat thing. It's really a spiritual thing where I can still express myself through my clothing, but the more I show of my body, the less I'm really revealing the panemius, the inner, my soul, what's really there. So there's a certain beauty to someone who's dressed modestly. Once again, men as well. We dress modestly because we want to say, my body isn't who I am. It's also a practical thing, by the way, because by the time you're 60, 70, 80, your body's going to look awful. So if you've got all of your sense of self on recognition from your body, you're going to end up as one of those 80-year-old women with so much plastic surgery. You've got all this weird makeup, those types. So the more you identify as a body, the more getting old is difficult and the more dying is difficult because you really have to let go of your identity. So we want this balance to have beauty, but an expression of inner beauty that comes from maybe covering yourself up.
Is there room for individuality in how Jews dress?
Absolutely. Huge individuality. Yeah, my wife is so colorful and different head coverings, and absolutely we have different ways to express ourselves. For men, I find it, for myself personally, a little bit different because I don't want to have to think about my clothes. That's why I just wear a white shirt every day because I don't have to get up in the morning and think, what am I going to wear? Also, white represents purity and spirituality. So I don't want clothes or fashion to be a major part of my consciousness. I got more important things to work on, but 100% a woman has to feel self-expressed, and there are many different ways to express yourself through your clothing. We just say it is covering up your body more.
But clothing is a big part of how Jews express themselves, specifically in Hasidic sects or...
Well, yes, sometimes we sold out. We have a chitzonius, we have an external expression, so you can see a chassid wearing a big strimal and payas, but what's going on inside? If their heart it's all about how big my strimal is and how nice my beketcher is, he's not called a chassid, he's called an external something. But if the chassid is thinking really the strimal represents a crown, keter, ratzon, and my payas represent that I'm going above and beyond for Hashem, there is a great power to your clothing, your external clothing, affecting your inner mind and inner consciousness. But yes, 100%, your external clothing can completely cut you off. That's why the word for clothes is beged, which means boged, comes from the word boged, which means deceit. So your clothes either cover you up or they reveal something about you. So your clothes can be completely deceitful. So you can have someone who has no beard and no big hat, but is a real chassid because they're really connected to chesed and love and God connection. And you can have someone walking around who looks externally like a chassid, but they're not a chassid at all. They're walking around, think about their business and their own pleasure. So we say tocho kabaro, your external and your internal should match each other. But Judaism judges people really on the internal. And then how you express that externally, as long as it's in a conscious and pure way, that's okay.
Hey, Rabbi, what's wrong with weed?
The problem with weed, really, is that Judaism's not into intense, mind-expanding experiences and then coming back down again. It's like if you have a rubber tube and you pump water into the rubber tube, the tube gets very big, but once the water's flowed through, the tube comes down, but it's not how it used to be. It's a little bit flimsy. You've kind of damaged it. And then you have to pump more water in it, and then it gets bigger, and it feels good. It's intense. It's amazing. It's powerful. But then when the water flows through, more flimsy. That's what you're doing to your consciousness when you're smoking weed. What you're doing, it feels intense and amazing, and you answer your life questions, and you might be even more creative and feel connected to God. But once the high, once you come down, you've actually damaged your natural state of high consciousness. So Judaism really believes that we want to have a consistent state of higher consciousness through meditation, through prayer, through mitzvahs, through kindness. So these high highs and then coming down is not really living in line with our consistent state of soul-like connection to Hashem. And we see, unfortunately, lots of people who are smoking weed and relying on weed. They're not the most motivated people in the world often. They're not really reaching their ultimate spiritual potential. So once we're relying on this external thing for high consciousness, we're taking away from our natural ability to tap into these higher levels of consciousness and even creativity. One of my very close friends actually said to me, when I smoke weed, I feel a lot more creative. And that's beautiful. And I understand that. Judaism teaches you can tap into your inner creativity without smoking weed, for example, through music and through meditation. And then you can get into that place. But yes, it's harder. So weed is a easy, effortless kind of counterfeit that feels like you're tapping into the same thing, but it's taking away from your natural ability to tap into your natural soul's ability to be immensely creative and connected. Thank you for tuning in. We're getting deep, we're getting dark, we're getting light, we're getting holy, we're going all over the place. But we need this generation. We need good questions. We need good answers. Keep them coming. See you next time. And don't forget, the most important thing, like, subscribe, notifications, send to your friends, share, follow, do all of that good stuff. Let's make sure this gets out to everyone in the world. Everyone needs to hear this. I love you guys. See you next time.